From comic books to television, motion pictures to action figures, this is the story of my why. This is the story of a collector. Hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of This Is My Why. This week, we're joined by our special guest, Godzilla, brought to you by Bandai. Now, last week I talked about tangibility, I talked about fun factor and replayability. This week I'm going to enlighten with a little bit of history beyond when I was just a little wee little lad and coming forward. Just a little wee little lad. Alright, I was basically brought up with a lot of pop culture, but having seen and been introduced to this by my father, may he rest in peace, I grew up on this television show that showed these folks in suits that I didn't know but looked about as real as one can believe. Godzilla is basically one of my heroes when I was just a little boy. Alright, I saw him, I couldn't believe my eyes. Huge, giant, monstrous kaiju, as I learned later on in life, developed to smush buildings, okay, and basically take on enemies beyond the scope of even my imagination and the possibilities of just destruction and taking forth. So if you take a look at the little comic book there by Marvel, you look at it, he was already doing that, okay? So back in the years, specifically the 1954 version there, we had Godzilla coming to seemingly destroy. Okay, in the years that followed, he became into a friendly little Goji. I personally grew up and looked at this from the perspective, I wish I could have some toys, some playability. I did not have the opportunity way back then, so I'm telling you now, one of the major factors in my collection and adding some of these figures, specifically this one from Godzilla, is the fact that later on in life, I was able to pick up this specific version from Bandai. Alright, very rare, hard to come by, but this is his card of the 1962 Godzilla vs. King Kong. If you haven't seen the movie, I'll be posting clips here in a while. Let's veer off. We got this Mr. Prop here that to give you a little bit of a look-see as to what exactly the movie entails. A few clips here, courtesy of Toho, the motion pictures, all credit to them. Okay, this movie, very well done, very well put together, and again, an influence on my life. All because my dad introduced me to it. Now, Godzilla has come a long, long way. But when I had the opportunity to pick up this action figure and just realize that back then, on the Japanese side, there weren't very many points of articulation, as you can see. You have at least two here. Now the tail is not moving, alright, so then you have his little arms moving up and down, alright, and so there's at least 4 points of articulation, but highly detailed, high definition type teeth here, and his eyes and his nose, I just couldn't resist. Okay, even his little scales, his dorsal fins there, right? Look at that, the attention to detail is grand for what it was seen as a little boy take on his good old buddy Kong. In 1962, you saw King Kong vs. Godzilla. Absolute masterpiece. Absolute, just if you're a little boy watching these two roll around, bust each other up, it was incredible. I picked these up because again, later on in life, it was not available. This one right here is Kong. No, it was made by Bandai, but again, I didn't know. I was a little boy. I couldn't have only 4 points of articulation again. I didn't know again from his backside. Alright, very rare, hard to come by. But very fun. Okay, so what's interesting about my pickup on this one is I saw it in the movie. I want to recreate the scenes. I want to recreate the play. Alright? So what's interesting about my wanting to do so is, again, later on in life, having gone into the Air Force and become a good airman and making and earning my way up through the chain, I was able to find these out and say, hey, look at that. I can find these finally. And some folks out in Japan were able to ship them to me, and the rest is history. Of course, not everyone probably has seen again the movie King Kong vs. Godzilla, seeing them ruckus around the house, basically destroying the houses. And I just couldn't resist. So replayability right there. Tangibility, of course, it's there. But the attention to detail, even his eyes, if you look at Kong's eyes just looking at you, he's got it just like in the movie. I'll show you some samples up on the viewboard in a bit so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. The whole idea between getting these action figures in my hands and giving them to you as a sharing to even my children who've played with them and ruckus them around and seeing them just roll around. Also, mentor inspired, just like last week what I mentioned, me to create what I saw was an X Plus version of the action figures rolling and twirling about. In addition to these folks, here's a review. So I've created a review on these two from Bandai, but I've also created some versions of the X Plus Godzilla that will be featured in another episode. Look at him lighting up with his dorsal fin, looking at his little buddy. Okay, another episode, another time, for this is my wife. But in this instance, you're going to see what inspired me to create a stop motion fun. Oh, silly. Oh no, it was really good. You'll see it up in the viewfinder as you get some time to look at it. And just for credit's sake, I'm telling you, I wanted another version of this, and I tell you, one friend, I'll put it in the link, created this custom of the King Kong versus Godzilla 1962 Kong figure. Okay, look at the detail, the attention, everything. Look at those eyes just glaring at you. Alright, I had to pick those. Another episode, I'll explain more details, and the creator, up to this day, has even created an additional figure, and giving you the opportunity to do and see stuff like this with the customization after he had his berry juice. A lovely face. Mum, just look at it. You know you love it. So again, 1962 Kong, created by a fellow on the Facebook group for Kaiju, Beto. I will post a link for that, and again another episode of why I picked this up. You kind of probably already figured it out, but I wanted to include him because he is very memorable and nostalgic. Part of what last week's episode was about nostalgia, tangibility, replayability, and of course all-around mentorship fun, because it inspired me to create the short for the development of how I felt was giving these action figures more life. So seeing them tussle around, you may see a review. I'll place the link for the review just to see that. That was for fun. There are other iterations. If you look down below, I may have included some as a hint for another time on why I picked those up. These are from Bandai. Okay, the big fellow you saw here a little while ago, that there is from X Plus, and it lights up. Oh, just love it, love that Goji. And finally, just coming back around circle, the lie down, boys. Will be the custom from our good friend Beto on the Facebook group. But later on, different episodes, I want to just make sure again, replayability, tangibility, oh yes, but more importantly, it brings and hits the heart, because my dad, may he rest in peace, introduced me to these fine characters and just gave me the ability to just say, I want to look and be inspired and create. There's the key word there for me in this episode, is creativity. I was inspired to create myself and that give back to you. Again, I'll put a little viewfinder and the link to the specific stop motion that I used with just these kaiju, in addition to giving you the opportunity to see what Beto did with this custom Kong. Thank you very much, folks. This is my why. Please comment, like, subscribe. Again, any suggestions, please submit them and I'll be more than happy to get back with you. Thank you.